Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. It is Monday, June 21st, and welcome to our weekly Westchester County update. I'm joined, as I always am, by our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins, and we have a number of other folks here who are going to be introduced in the next couple of seconds. We're located right now in Ossining at the Hudson Hills Golf Course, which is one of our 6 public golf courses in Westchester County, and we're here to talk about, in specific, the creation of new electric vehicle charging stations, as you see behind me here, located at Hudson Hills, and then also more generally about some of our initiatives on the environment that include what we're doing to try to advance electric vehicle infrastructure, as well as conversion of our bus fleet and automotive fleet from diesel and from gasoline-powered to electric-powered vehicles, and then also to talk a little bit more generally about some of the other issues that are facing the county. We'll touch on as well the COVID numbers as we do. Obviously, the COVID numbers have gotten significantly better, and they are part of our report, but they are not the cutting edge of the report as they have been for the last year or so, as we really do our very best to return to normalcy. Let me mention that over my left shoulder, to your right, we're joined by a number of people that are very prominent in the environmental community, and they're here because they're part of organizations that are partners with Westchester County in trying to advance our environmental agenda. We're joined by Ellen Weiniger, who's director of the Grassroots Environmental Education Program, Leo Wegman, who's director of the Westchester Power Sustainable Westchester organization. He's a former mayor of the village of Croton-on-Hudson. We have Susie Ross, who's with us. She's with the Westchester County Climate Crisis Task Force, and Rebecca Novick, who worked on the Climate Smart Community Certification, which we'll chat about in a second. And I'm going to invite in a few minutes Janet Harckham to speak. She has a number of different critical involvements in the environmental community. She's president of the Friends of Hilltop Hanover Farm and Environmental Center. She's also a member of the county's Climate Crisis Task Force, and she's chair of the Westchester chapter of the Climate Reality Project. We also have with us Gayle Katzman, who is our Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Public Works, and Peter McCartt, who's our Director of Energy and Sustainability and the point person for most of our environmental efforts. We're here at Hudson Hills, as I said, because we have just created 2 new electric vehicle charging bays here, which will be used by those who bring their electric vehicles to Hudson Hills, most likely to play a round of golf. And as Peter will no doubt mention, we have a number of different locations around the county that we either have put into place or are developing additional electric vehicle charging stations. We have the ability to put them in wherever the county owns property. And of course, our Parks Department, and we're joined today as well by Kathy O'Connor, who's our Commissioner of the Parks, Recreation, and Conservation Department. Our various county parks satisfy lots of different uses, and certainly if you're going to be at one of our parks for a long period of time, it's an ideal time for you to pull your car in and have it charged up during that period of time, certainly playing a round of golf here at Hudson Hills or at any number of other locations. We have established, and we announced this a number of months ago, that we have 10 electric vehicle charging bays located at the North White Plains train station, and it's at that location because that is where we own a parking lot that's part of the Bronx River Reservation. We also have parking that's proximate to the White Plains commuter station. Not all commuter stations have a county-owned facility nearby that would allow us to do that, but if you're going to commute into the city, that's certainly a sufficient amount of time to have your car plugged in to do this, and we have some other ones along those lines that are important. We're also going to talk about our bronze certification that has just been designated as part of New York State's Department of Environmental Conservation's Climate Smart Community Initiative. We're very proud to have that designation. As we know, in the world of Olympic medals, there's gold, silver, and bronze. I don't believe anyone got a gold identification this year, but when you get bronze, you've accomplished something, and you've got more that you can accomplish, and so we're certainly going to strive to do better as part of all of this. So I'm going to first ask our first speaker, Janet Harckham, to come and talk a little bit about the combination of these environmental initiatives, this being one of many, but she's involved in so many of them, so we'd like Janet to share some of her thoughts about the environmental challenge that's ahead of us. Janet Harckham.
Thank you, County Executive Latimer. I first would like to thank and congratulate Peter McCartt and his small band of action-oriented individuals that have helped the county achieve this Climate Smart Communities designation. It is no small task. The actions required to meet that are real, they're meaningful, and they are long-term systemic change for the county. It's the beginning of real change for the county, which I have to say is the only way we're going to actually achieve real progress attacking the climate crisis. And as part of the Climate Reality Project, I do need to talk a little bit about the reality of the climate. Just last week, NOAA and NASA released a new report that talks about how the heat trapped by the Earth from the sun has doubled since 2005, just since 2005. That is not a long time. So in addition to the oceans absorb 90% of that heat, the concentrations of the CO2 and methane and other greenhouse gases in our atmosphere are preventing the solar radiation from bouncing back out into the atmosphere, and it's creating a rapid rate of change for the Earth. This is an accelerated rate of change that we didn't anticipate. Things are surprising us every day in terms of the science, and it's pretty wonderful that the county is approaching the climate crisis in this long-term systemic way. It's the beginning. There's a lot more that can be done, but truly we should applaud and laud the entire county at all levels of government, because everyone was involved in this process. And so applaud and laud, that's what I think we need to do. And thank you very much on behalf of the Climate Crisis Task Force and Climate Reality Project. Thank you.
Thanks, Janet. Thank you, Janet. I think as we look at the opportunity that we have before us, we're certainly happy when we reach certain milestones of accomplishment, but we're very clear that we've got a long way to go in Westchester County, in all of the municipalities in this county and across the state, this state, and all the states and all the nations of the world. So we want to make sure that you understand we see each of these steps as positive steps forward, and we have more to do. Next, we have Deputy Commissioner Gayle Katzman, who is deputy of our Department of Public Works. I'm sure she had a lot to do with the placement of these particular electrical vehicle charging stations in this location, and certainly to look ahead to how we can help create the infrastructure that we need to have for the climate smart actions that we need to take. Commissioner?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Gayle Katzman. On behalf of the Department of Public Works and Transportation, I really wanted to thank the County Executive and the County Executive's Office for their support in all of our efforts to procure and install these electric vehicle charging stations around the county. This is the first one in a series of many charging stations that we'll be installing, and you'll see more to come in the coming months. But again, thank you for your support, and we're happy to be here.
Now, we've made the very rough estimate that one of these electric vehicle charging stations, depending on the logistics of the individual site, might cost between $15,000 to $20,000 to set up. Depending on the public access to those charging stations, there is a charge to charge up your car, but it's proportionate. It's the expense that those who own electric vehicles understand are necessary to keep them going, in the same way that people would stop and put gasoline in their car to make sure that they continue to go. But having the convenience and the location of these charging stations in different parts of the county is essential in order for those who buy electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles that need an electric charge, that they know that there is an infrastructure out there, places they can go in order to charge the car whenever they're not in a home setting. And so Gayle and the team at DPW was looking at other locations and how we can advance them, and certainly we're going to be talking about those as we go forward. This particular initiative and so many others, solar collection initiatives, food scrap recycling, all fall under the portfolio of Peter McCartt. Peter works with us in our executive chamber in the county office building. When I asked him to take on this responsibility, it was to fulfill a job that had been created by the Board of Legislators over the last decade, but we really felt that Peter would be the first person to serve in that job who could really bring the vision of the legislature to fruition in a host of different areas in both sustainability and energy and the environment, and he has proven to be very creative. His past background in the environmental community involves being involved not only with Sustainable Westchester, but also with the Eastchester Environmental Committee in the community that he lives in, which he's chaired over the last number of years. So we're very happy to have Peter as a critical part of this team. And Peter will talk a little bit about the Climate Smart dedication and particularly the efforts of what that represents as a bronze designation. Peter?
Thank you, George. Well, under George's leadership and our new EV charger installation program to the major DEC certification accomplishment, these are just further evidence of the many actions we are taking toward creating a more sustainable Westchester. Every small step is progress. All the actions that we do in our own home builds to all the initiatives the local municipalities are doing, then the county, state, and upward. Small green actions add up to large, powerful successes. We are really extremely proud of our certification and happy to join other local cities, towns, and villages here in Westchester, including Cortland, Mount Kisco, Bedford, Pound Ridge, Pleasantville, Sleepy Hollow, Irvington, Dobbs Ferry, Yonkers, and Mamaroneck. And I did not forget Mayor Armacost. Hastings and Croton on Hudson are both silver. And as George said, there are no gold. So what makes this certification so difficult for the county is that we are so large. So even our small actions are quite massive to undertake. Nearly 1,600 vehicles, including the buses, over 4,000 employees, 1 million citizens, 7 wastewater treatment plants, correction facility, and so on. We are the second largest of the 9 counties that have earned this certification. We needed 120 points to get the bronze, but we submitted 140 points, and they were all accepted. It was a tough year to get certified. We were the only county to get certified, and there was only 5 municipalities. I would like to thank specifically Janet Harckham, Rebecca Novick, and some of our Climate Smart Communities Task Force members that are here today, Susie Ross, Ellen Weininger, Leo Wegman, Chair Janet, and we have Andy Ratskin. Come on over, Andy. Sadly, a couple of key people couldn't make it today. Katie Jakob, who worked with Rebecca, she's a fellow Eastchester resident, and a big shout out to my right-hand man over the last 5 months, Harry Brussel, who picked up the pieces of all the actions and molded it together for submission. Thanks, Harry. Thanks a lot. Transportation is a full third of Westchester's carbon footprint. And it would be much higher than that if we included all the traffic that flows through the county via routes 95, 87, and 287, but we don't. Electrifying our fleet is a task we committed ourselves to 3.5 years ago. And we are now on a path to converting our whole fleet by 2030. When we first got here, we had plug-in hybrids, many of them, and they weren't getting plugged in every night because there weren't enough charging outlets. So thanks to Deputy Commissioner Hernani de Almeida, we fixed that Tout suite. So we're bringing chargers to our vast fleet. We're bringing it to the employees in the new garage. We're doing all that work on the garage. And with this installation here, we are kicking off a systematic campaign to add more public charging to our parks and public parking areas. We have weekly EV and EV charging working group meetings, and I want to thank Deputy Commissioner Gayle Katzman for muscling this through with her team of Robert Abamont, Gabby Rivas, who's here today, Gary Lynch, and Nadia Savage. After Hudson Hills, we'll have a shovel going in the ground at Maplemore, hopefully this week. Then to Mahansick, Sprain Lake, County Center, Ward Powden Ridge, Playland, Croton Point Park, where all the corners that George visited once a week. These are in addition to the 10 stations already at the North White Plains Station and the 4 stations at the Westchester Medical Center. But thank you, George, for giving us the opportunity to electrify our fleet and get all these charging stations in for everybody. I thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter.
This is great.
Thank you for your hard work. Thank you. I also want to recognize David Kavinga, who's with us here from the Planning Department. And it's important to note when you have DPW represented, planning, parks and recreation, the interface that goes on between these different departments. It's essential that we focus on an end result, not just each department's siloed activities. And so it's the coordination of the Planning Department with the Department of Public Works and the Recreation Department that have pulled together to do these things. And we're appreciative of all those departments. Hugh Grecian, our Commissioner of DPW, could not be with us here today, and Norman Drummond, who serves as the Commissioner of Planning as well. But we're very blessed by having good leadership at the Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner level, and all the other operational levels. And I want to thank you personally for all of that. Some of the advocates who are here, Ellen and Leo and some of the other folks who we've mentioned, have really done tremendous work and many times not getting the public attention that is most helpful. Right now we're at a point where I think many of us wind up on Facebook or Twitter and getting much of our information from there. And when we get information from there, it's generally selective, and oftentimes it talks about things happening on a national level, maybe sometimes on the state level. But individuals like this and organizations like the one they represent is really doing the grassroots work. And I would highlight particularly public education, because as much as you can point to bricks and mortar, if you want to call it bricks and mortar here with these locations, it's also getting people to understand the importance of addressing climate change and to figure out how you in your personal life will adjust behavior. And your purchasing, what you buy and how you buy it, how it contributes or does not contribute to the extra waste that we produce in the society, what you drive and what it produces in terms of gases that emit from it, and how you conserve natural resources. And all of those things are critical. And these organizations put a lot of emphasis on public education. There are seminars that are had on Zoom and previously and soon in the future in-person education programs. I've been to Bedford 2020, now Bedford 2030 programs, the same type of designation in Croton, which is just nearby where we are today, and what some of those climate smart communities that Peter read off are all doing various initiatives in their areas, things that relate to composting, food scrap recycling, rather than putting it into the trucks to go get burned at the waste facility, Wheelabrator's waste facility. So many different little things. And I do think that when we talk about how we're going to fight climate change, a county government is not a state government. We're not a national government. And what happens at the national level and perhaps at the state level is more dramatic and more important. But every one of us can do our share. There are things that are within our power as a county government, and those are things we ought to do. And the things that fall outside of our authority, we advocate for in the same way that the citizen advocates advocate to the county government to do the most. So we're very grateful for all the work that the people that are standing behind me have done and the work that we've yet to do. But we will be back at various other times to talk about our solar collection plans, our Planting Westchester program, a host of things that involve sustainability and energy reduction. And so I want to thank Peter McCartt for his leadership in all of those different areas. And now, out of the kindness of my heart, because there is global warming, I'm going to invite all of our guests to feel free to leave the shot. There is shade out there somewhere, and you're welcome to find it. And Ken and I will do the rest of this in the heat. Thank you all very much for your contribution and your efforts. I want to give a brief update on COVID so that we keep track of what's been happening. The numbers of our COVID infection here in Westchester County have really been exemplary. We've seen a continued diminution of the infection. I've said that almost by rote for the last number of weeks, but it continues to drop down from week to week to week. I just had a chance to look at earlier today the update that I gave 2 weeks ago and how proud we were at the numbers that we were 2 weeks ago, and now they've come down further. Very much at a thumbnail sketch level. We now have, as of yesterday's numbers that were up on the New York State Tracker, we're down to 243 active cases of coronavirus. As I mention every week, I compared against the high water mark in January of 11,500 active cases. We're down now to 243. A week ago, we had 276 active cases. A month ago, we had 782 active cases. So forgetting the big drop from 11,005 down, even a month ago, we were at 782. We're down to 243 today. That is good news. That means that the infection at this point in Westchester is not spreading by any kind of an exponential fashion. At last count, we had 18 people hospitalized for COVID-related illness. A week ago, we had 26, and a month ago, we had 63 people. The January peak, 588 people hospitalized for COVID. So now we're down to 18, and we hope that number will continue to diminish. We have endured 2,291 fatalities pandemic to date, starting from the first recorded deaths in March. However, I'm very happy to say for the last 6 nights, we've had no fatalities. And we have not gone 6 consecutive days without even one fatality since the beginning of the pandemic. So this is good news. Let's hope we have another day and another day followed by that so that the fatality numbers stay static at the level they're at now, we see less people hospitalized. That's the depth of infection, and then the total numbers of infections will change. Most of this can be attributed, I think, directly to vaccination numbers shooting up. The president gave us a goal as a nation to have 70% of all of our citizens 18 years of age and older, 70% vaccinated by July 4th. July 4th is not quite 2 weeks away from where we are today. Westchester County has already achieved 75.8% vaccinations, minimum one dose vaccinations. So we're already 6% ahead of the national goal that was set by the president. Obviously, we're a county of 1 million people in a nation of 320 million people. There are lots of other areas, and of course, every area's got their own demographics and their own realities. So we're proud of what's happened here. Obviously, it's important for it to happen everywhere. We need, the statewide numbers the governor announced last week when we broke the 70% mark statewide. We're very proud that in Westchester we have outpaced almost all the other counties in New York State. Our neighboring counties, Rockland County is 66% vaccinated, Orange County about 61%, Putnam County 61%, Dutchess 67%, Sullivan County 58%, Suffolk County 71%, the Bronx 59%, Brooklyn 61%, Ulster 72%, Queens 74%, and Westchester County 76%, 75.8%. So we're very happy with those numbers. We think that as the vaccinations continue, we will continue to have some positive success. We have one pop-up or satellite vaccination area that's going on today from 3 o'clock to 7:30 today. We have a vaccination center at the Salvation Army, 36 Bush Avenue in Port Chester. And I want to thank Joan McDonald, particularly Emily Saltzman, Viva Meyer, and their team for helping work through these centers. Chris Steers, very involved in the logistics of these. There will be some more announced, and we've been doing them in schools. Now we're getting to the end of the school season, so it'll be a little bit difficult to do that, but we've focused on those in the 12 to 16 category. They don't show up in that 18-plus number because it's only 18 and plus that have been universally available for vaccinations over the extended period of time. We certainly have young kids under the age of 12 that are not vaccinated because there's not yet an approved vaccine for children of that age. I want to also announce that Playland will be opening this Saturday, the 26th. We did not open it at all last year. We're going to be opening it this year. We're going to run it through Labor Day. We're hopeful that it will be fun for all. You'll remember just how much fun you had at Playland as you go back to Playland. We have some restrictions that we're going to be keeping an eye on for a certain amount of public health needs, but now that we've reached the point we have, it'll be a lot less restrictive than it might have been otherwise. We had originally started out making no plans to having any fireworks. We are now assessing when we can start a fireworks program. The state went ahead and did one, so we know it's legal now. And hopefully we'll be able to find the resources that we did not originally plan on in order to have fireworks at Playland as well. We will have all summer long 8 different drive-in movies at the Kensico Dam Plaza area. We had 2 last year. They were well received, and we're going to have more of them this year to enjoy it. We had a couple at Playland last year. We're not able to accommodate it because of the opening of Playland, which would take up the parking spaces otherwise set aside for the movie. But we're also excited that we're investing capital in a lot of our various parks. Right now we're at a point where we're very close to a very important day. Tomorrow, Tuesday, June 22nd, is primary day. And I'd like Ken Jenkins to cover, now that we're through the early voting period, what we expect tomorrow on primary day. Ken.
Thanks, George. And as the county executive just pointed out, tomorrow is primary day throughout Westchester County. The polls are going to be open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. You should absolutely check to ensure that you're going to your assigned polling location. It's not like early voting where you could vote anywhere in the county. You must go to your assigned polling location. Please call 914-995-5500. That's the Board of Elections, and they'll be able to advise you appropriately where that polling location is, and even if you have a primary election in your particular category. So again, tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., primary voting day in Westchester County at your assigned polling location. Thanks, George.
Let me check with Catherine Chaffee to see if we have some questions from the press.
We do. We have 2 questions from David Proper. The first one is from Lohut. How much testing is being done by the state or locally for the Delta variant?
Well, the testing that's being done right now is testing positive or negative, and in the process of determining the positive nature, there's information that would alert the medical professionals to whether or not the variant, Delta variant, is present in those that are positive. I must say the number of positives we've had in the last number of days has really been minimal. The Sunday testing numbers came back with about, in round numbers, 3,300 tests and 3 total positives. So it has not been released to us yet what number of Delta variants may be coming out of those who are tested positive. Obviously, if you're negative, you wouldn't have the disease, therefore you wouldn't have the variant. But the numbers are so small right now that they're not a concern. We're following what we see nationally, and will this increase our circumstances? We're told that the vaccines that we have taken still are efficacious against the variant. What the variant does, as I'm told, is that it makes it more communicable disease, but you are far less likely to get the disease at all if you've been vaccinated. And as the higher number of vaccinations we have in Westchester County, the less number of people we would expect to get it. We have asked the state to determine if there's information they can release to us. They have not yet given us that detail. But again, when you're running, yesterday was an extremely low number of 3. Prior to that, we had 12, I think, the day before. At that low level of numbers of infections, it would not seem to be a problem. But we track it over the course of a couple of weeks. If those numbers start to rise and the variant is part of it, then we'll certainly share that in an update.
And the next question, also from David Proper, which is the last question we have for today, is any indication when the mass vaccination site at the county center?
The governor has indicated that he's assessing all of the mass vaccination sites and determining, because of the drop in demand, how much longer they would go on. I'm sure because we're still vaccinating young people at that site, and you're still in the school period of time. This is sort of the last week of school now for everybody, whether they're graduating or still undergraduates. So we think there's still a purpose for maintaining the mass vaccination sites. But I think that's going to be reassessed by the state, and if they do decide to close any of the facilities that they're responsible for, we'll certainly announce that publicly. But for the short purposes of this week until we report next week, we expect the center to be open and still being able to provide vaccinations, and you can walk up and get vaccinations. That's a situation. And then we also have to be mindful that wherever we gave Pfizer or Moderna vaccines, we still have the obligation to come back at a 3-week or 4-week cycle and issue the second shots. So when we gave you the number that 75.8% are at least vaccinated with one shot, that presumes that a certain number of that population needs the second shot. I think it's about 14% out of the 78% is still needing their second shot. 60-some-odd percent, 61, 62% have gotten fully vaccinated. So there's still a reason for the center to be open for a while longer. I think probably the assessment will be what happens post July 4th. July 5th actually is a Monday, and that's probably the federal holiday. So we'll see what happens. And we have another week or so to see how the state views that and what will happen. In the meantime, the county still operates our health clinic at 134 Court Street, and that clinic has maintained its presence as vaccine location, and we expect that to continue for the foreseeable future. Those questions are from David Proper at LOHUD Journal News. We thank him for that. Any other member of the press that wants to reach out to us can do so by contacting Catherine Chaffee. You have the phone number and the email. And then certainly we invite you to talk to any of the folks who are here today. You can reach any of the county employees who are present today through Catherine, and those from the various volunteer environmental organizations who are also reachable. Contact Catherine. She'll give you their information, and they can get the phone call. And we welcome you sharing with the public in any way you'd like on these issues. So I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thank you for sweating with me under the stars. And we'll be back a week from today with some additional update on other issues that relate to Westchester County. We'll certainly give you an update of COVID at that time. We will come back to you in the interim if there are other major announcements of worth. We are working on Glen Island. We don't have an opening date yet on it, but we're working on it. Kathy O'Connor is getting extra gray hairs over that project, but we are excited that the state has returned Glen Island to our control. It allows us to put our third beach on board. Won't be this weekend, but soon. And along with Playland Beach and Croton Point Beach, they're open. And the pools open up this weekend as well in our 4 locations. It should be a good week ahead. Have a great day. Stay safe. We'll see you soon.